welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today I'm going to be using this gorgeous 3D embossing folder from Spellbinders, which has all the kind of like little postage stamp motifs on it, and I absolutely adore this. So I want to do an inky embossing technique with it. I want to colour it, and then I'm going to turn one embossed image into 3 cards. So I'm going to take my dusty pink fresh dye ink from Altenew, and I'm going to ink up my brayer. And I'm going to bring in some scrap paper for this because I don't want to get the ink on my work surface. And then I want to ink up the front of the embossing folder, which is this bit with the Spellbinders on. So I'm going to run this across here. I want to make sure it gets right up to the top edge and right down to the bottom edge. And then I'm going to add in an 8.5 by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock and emboss it as I would usually. So now we've got this, which looks really pretty, but I'm missing a bit of the ink on this particular one here, so I'm just going to ink up that top bit again and run it through again. And because I'm leaving this in the same place, then it should be fine. And so then I was lucky enough to recently win some Olo markers. So Olo markers are an alcohol marker, but they come, so when you buy an Olo marker, you get a marker this size, and it comes with a brush tip, and then you get these connectors so that you connect them, and you can connect any colour to any colour basically, so you've got a different colour on each end, or in my case a different shade on each end. And I'm just getting used to these, so I'm just going to try them out on here. But they're a brush marker, and the idea is that they have twice the amount of usable ink as a normal marker, and to be honest they take up half the space as well, because obviously you've got 2 colours in one pen. So I quite like that about them because I do lack a bit of space. I'm actually going to go through and colour all of these, but I just want to point out as well how pretty these are when it's just got the white and the pink, because that actually is a really lovely look as well. So there's our finished panel. You can see I've got another one here. So this is actually the one we started off with, but I decided I didn't really like the coloured outline, so I used this to kind of test a few colours on. But also here on this panel that I'm keeping, I started doing some pink lines here and I didn't like that. So these ones at the bottom I'm going to cut out, so I'm actually going to use this one instead of this one, and then I'll use the rest of this sheet. So we're still basically using one sheet because I'm going to get rid of this one and add in that one. It's just I'm using that one off my test sheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off this top part. We're going to use that for a square card, and then I'm going to cut out these bits individually. So then there's my panel for my square card, and then these ones I'm going to cut around. So then let's make the cards. So I've got that panel here and I've cut a 6 by 6 inch card blank from this pink cardstock. So I've got some of the same pink cardstock, and I'm just going to use this Today's All About You sentiment from this Catherine Paula design stamp set. It's called Best Birthday Yet, and I'm just going to heat emboss that on here. So I'm going to heat emboss that in white. So all I'm going to do for this one is just glue this panel onto my card blank, and then I've cut my sentiment down and created a white border for it, so I'll glue those together and put them on. So there's that card done. So then for my next card I'm going to use up some of these individual pieces. So again it's going to be a pretty simple card. I'm just going to add a piece of foam sheet underneath this layer, and then I'm going to add this onto here. So it's a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card blank, and then this piece that I'm adding on is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And then I'm just going to arrange these pieces on here, and then I'm going to add all my pieces on foam pads. And so this is going to be quite a dimensional card because it's basically got 2 sets of foam pieces. But obviously you could either glue these down or glue this onto the card blank if you didn't want so much dimension. This, by the way, is from A Pocket Full of Happiness Everyday Sentiments. I've just stamped it in this Raspberry Sunset ink. And there's that card done. And then for my final card, I've just got a white card blank that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. Then I've got this piece, which is 4 3/4 by 3 1/2 inches, and I've embossed that with this month's embossing folder of the month, which gives these nice kind of postage stamp edges to it. And then I've got this one piece left to use, and I'm just going to make a simple sentiment for that. So I'm just going to use the same happy birthday as I used for the sentiment on the last card, and I'm just going to heat emboss that in white embossing powder onto pink cardstock. And again, I'm going to pop up my layers, and I've just got quite a few bits of foam sheets left, so I'm just going to use some oddments. And then I'm going to pop up my postage stamp and my happy birthday as well. Then there's that card done. Then there are all 3 of today's cards. I really hope you enjoyed creating them with me. I'd love to know which is your favourite. Please do let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below. And there's also a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.